Good afternoon. I want to welcome you to another segment of the Jermaine Brown Sports Talk Show. Today is Friday, July the 7th, 2017. Now, it's been a while since I've done the last podcast or the last segment of something like this. Because truthfully, there was no real stories that was really interesting to me at the time, worthy of talking more about it, but I'm going to start doing a little bit more of these, especially about the NBA, because I find, quite a few fascinating storylines. First of all, I want to congratulate Kevin Durant and the Golden State Warriors for winning the NBA title this past June. But what this podcast is going to be about is LeBron James in Cleveland. Now, of late, I've been listening to the sports talk shows there in Cleveland, and, it's amazing. These people, you have to wonder if they even deserve to have a championship, because their expectations, to me, is unrealistic. They finally win one championship, and they think that they're entitled to win so many. They think they're LA or New York or Boston or Chicago, cities that have won many championships in many different sports. No, that's not the case. Cleveland just finally won a title, after so long. But where they're panicking is this whole thing about LeBron and him potentially leaving after next year. And that's what I wanted to focus this podcast or this video on today. And I'm going to give you 5 reasons why LeBron will not leave Cleveland after 2018 when his contract is up. Now, before I do that, I want to kind of take a little history lesson, go back a little bit in time. Back in 2010, before I was even doing things like this, I had predicted, it was commonly known, so it wasn't like it was any revelation on my part, because it wasn't. But it was commonly known that LeBron was going to leave Cleveland when his contract expired at the end of that season. And everybody outside of Cleveland knew. It seemed like Cleveland was like the last to know. Anyway, so LeBron, the only question was, where would LeBron end up at? And most media pundits had him at either New York, Chicago, or LA, because those 3 teams had the cap room. Everyone knew Miami had the cap room, but nobody saw Miami. No one was talking Miami. Everyone was talking Chicago, LA, or New York. They thought because, LeBron James spent a lot of time there, boom, 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 in these 3 different cities, that this is where he wants to win championships and, really build his legacy. But he ended up going to Miami. It was only the week of that we really find out that it was actually Miami all along that he intended to go with. Him and Dwayne Wade, really, and Pat Riley really put something together here. Mainly Wade and LeBron, because those two were friends. Because of LeBron, if Wade was not in Miami, I don't think LeBron would have gone there. These athletes today, they're about hooking up with their friends. This is very, very important, and I want you to keep that point in mind. Okay, so in 2010, everyone knew LeBron was gone from Cleveland. That was a given. Now he wins 2 titles in Miami. Now it's 2014. Now, most people thought LeBron would stay in Miami, or if he left Miami, he would be going to LA to play with the Lakers. Because again, the Lakers was courting him. The Lakers had the cap room, boom, boom, boom. So did the Knicks and a couple other teams. But everybody was focusing on either Miami or LA. I said nope, he's going back home to Cleveland, and I'm going to explain to you why. And it goes back to 2010 again, because when you see that the decision that LeBron chose to do back in July of 2010, when he was announcing he was going to Miami, you can look at his body language and you can see he was very uncomfortable about that decision. Not so much about the decision, but the way it was going down. You could tell that, he's not accustomed to being away from home. So you could tell it was bothering him. And then here's another clue that I knew that he was gonna always go back to Cleveland. Because after Dan Gilbert wrote that letter, and listen, we could sit here and we could debate the letter to Kingdom Come. He shouldn't have wrote the letter, but I understand why he wrote the letter, Dan Gilbert, okay? As the fan, and see, Dan Gilbert made the mistake of not separating fan from ownership. You're the owner, you're not just a fan. But nonetheless, he wrote the letter. It was a mistake, okay? But I knew that LeBron was heading back to Cleveland when the first year after he left Miami, when, the feelings were still raw. After a game against Cleveland, a reporter asked him, could he ever see himself coming back to Cleveland? LeBron said this, I will never say never. I could see it happening. That's when I knew then. I said, he's going to go back to Cleveland the first chance he gets. Because I know one thing, if I was Pat Riley, I would not have appreciated that comment. I would be like, listen, while you're with the Heat, please don't talk about, going to other teams or playing for other teams. Just because someone asks you the question, you don't have to answer it. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But I knew that LeBron, the first chance he got, he was going back to Cleveland. I just knew it. So while everyone had him pegged for LA or New York, I said, no, it's going to be Cleveland, and here's why. If you look at that Cleveland team, okay, everybody wants to say, well, LeBron was leaving a championship team in Miami, with Wade and them boys. And that is true. But see, Wade got old, and LeBron knew this. Wade was breaking down physically. LeBron knew this. And LeBron had to carry a lot of the load in Miami because Chris Bosh, though he was adequate, he wasn't great there. Okay? So LeBron had to do a lot of the rebounding. He had to do some of everything. Here was an upstart Cleveland team that had a Kyrie Irving, Tristan Thompson, okay? A Deion Waiters at the time. Then they had the #1 pick, and they picked Andrew Wiggins. So this was a team that LeBron looked and said, well, wait a minute. I can play with a younger Dwayne Wade with Kyrie Irving, okay? And then Tristan Thompson, who's a workhorse, rebounding, defense, boom, boom, boom. Now all I got to do is just swap out Wiggins for Love. Love, who's a 2010 guy in his sleep, 2012 guy in his sleep. Boom. I got a making of a potential championship team. So LeBron was angling to go back to Cleveland. And I knew this. And the thing is this. And there were other reasons, because he also wanted to make amends for that whole decision thing, because LeBron, in his heart, knew that the way that decision went down, it was a mistake the way it went down. So when LeBron decided to go back to Cleveland, I said, okay. And he signed a 1+1, which means he could opt out after a year or two. And you heard Stephen A. Smith and some other pundits say, well, he's keeping the pressure on Dan Gilbert. He doesn't trust Dan Gilbert, boom, boom, boom. The letter, it was bothering Dan Gilbert. Not Dan Gilbert, the letter was bothering LeBron. And I said this. I said, that's a bunch of BS, and here's why. Now, I'm not saying LeBron and Dan Gilbert are friends. No, I'm not prepared to go there. But here's what I will say. They're business partners. They're businessmen. LeBron made a business decision, okay? Now, if LeBron still had an issue with that letter, LeBron would have never went back to Cleveland if it was really that bothersome to him. But LeBron was a bigger man. So I knew then, I said, this here, when LeBron was doing this 1+1 type contract, it's not so much to keep pressure on Dan Gilbert, because everyone knew Dan was going to spend money because he spent money the first time. He just didn't spend it well. But Dan Gilbert is known as a guy who will spend money on his team. So that's not the issue. Here is where the issue lies. LeBron wants to be the highest or no more than the second highest paid player in the league. And if he signs a long-term deal, that becomes now harder to do because the next guy signs a long-term deal, and then the next guy, and then now the next thing you know, you see LeBron moving down the ladder. So by LeBron signing 1+1 deals, LeBron maximizes two things. Number one, he could go and get top dollar each contract that ends. He's going to get top dollar. Second, it gives him flexibility. Okay? And what LeBron also wanted to do was control his future, where if he signs a long-term deal, the team controls his future. This is not the case here. LeBron wants to control his future. LeBron is astute. Now, here are the 5 reasons. Now, they won the title in 2016. Then they lost this past season, and now everybody has him going to LA. Here's why he will not go to LA, folks. And here's the 5 reasons that I have that he's going to stay in Cleveland. And that's what this is about. Before I give you the 5 reasons why he's staying in Cleveland, I'm going to tell you why it will not be LA. If he were to leave Cleveland, though I don't believe he will, but if he were to leave Cleveland, it will not be for LA, and here are the 5 reasons why. Number one, LA has limited cap space. Whether you're talking about the Clippers or whether you're talking about the Lakers, they have limited cap space. The most they can do is sign 2 max players. That's not going to work for LeBron for this reason. LeBron is going to want to control any situation he is in. Okay? In LA, he will have very little control because here's why. Let's assume it's the Lakers, because it definitely won't be the Clippers. And the reason it won't be the Clippers is because once Chris Paul, who is one of LeBron's friends, left the Clippers, I don't see LeBron going and playing for the Clippers. Now that the Clippers won't have the money anyway. So that's another story. But here's why it will not be the Lakers. If LeBron was seriously considering the Lakers and LeBron wanted to play with his friends, because LeBron always said he wants to play with his friends when it's all said and done with. Now, he played with Dwayne Wade, but there's 2 other friends he have in the NBA that he's really tight with. And one is Chris Paul, the other one is Carmelo Anthony. Now, this is very, very important because if LeBron was really seriously considering LA, particularly the Lakers, what he would have said to Chris Paul was, Chris, do not opt out of your contract there with the Clippers. Opt in, play the final year there. So then this is where you become a free agent next year, and then we can move to the Lakers. He would have done something like that. But notice, Chris Paul chose to opt in so he can go to Houston. Now, why this is important is because if LeBron was going to LA to play with his friend Chris Paul, why is Chris Paul leaving LA? That makes no sense. To go back the next year? No. He would have just stayed in LA. So LeBron, and remember, when LeBron decides to, anytime somebody decides to make a move, they plan these things out months, if not really years in advance. You know at least a year or 2 in advance what you plan on doing. Even if you don't tell anybody. When you decide to make a move, very rarely does somebody make a move. Whether it's moving to a new city, a new town, a new state, whatever, or new home, you don't make that move on a spur like that, over a whim. Usually you have this stuff planned out. So let's say if he was going to the Lakers, he would have just simply said, Chris, stay there with the LA, with the Clippers. Then it makes it easier to go to the Lakers next year. The same building, you don't got to leave the town. But by Chris Paul leaving town, Chris Paul just told you indirectly he's not coming to the Lakers. He's not leaving because LeBron and them would have planned this all out with his friends. Not only that, if LeBron was really serious considering LA, then Carmelo Anthony would have said LA has to be one of the teams. Notice that Carmelo Anthony, who was another one of LeBron's closest friends, said LA is out. He doesn't want LA. He wants Cleveland or he wants Houston. And there's a reason why. Because if he goes to Cleveland, he gets to play with his boy LeBron. If he goes to Houston, he gets to play with his boy Chris Paul. So either way, for Anthony, it's a win-win. So that also tells me that LeBron is not leaving Cleveland, especially for LA. Because if he was leaving for LA, if I'm Carmelo, LA is where I want to be. LA is where I want to be. I don't want to be in Cleveland or Houston if LeBron's going to LA. And somebody will say, well, no, he wouldn't have told them. Yes, he would have, because remember, when he left for 2010 to Miami, Dwayne Wade already knew. That's why Dwayne Wade told Pat Riley, gut the roster. So this way we can have maximum cap space to sign 2 max players in Bosh and Wade. LeBron. Gut the roster. This was all planned out years in advance. Not months, not weeks, not 1 year in advance, years in advance. This was planned out ever since they went to the Olympics together. And it might have even been planned out before that, but it was definitely planned out around the Olympics that they was going to play together. It was just a matter of now timing, because LeBron knew back in during that time that team was not good enough to win a title. He knew this. This is why he was planning his exit. LeBron is a thinker, folks. He's a thinker. So now, if he goes to LA, the Warriors are still great. But now, instead of dealing with the Warriors 2 times during the season, and then in a 7-game series in the finals, he has to deal with the Warriors 4 times during the season. And then if he gets to go against them in the playoffs another 7 more times, or however many times it is, 7-game series. In other words, why would I make my route to the finals tougher if I'm LeBron? LeBron, folks, is getting old. So now here's the 5 reasons why I say he's not leaving Cleveland. Now that we got this LA mess out the way. And by the way, for full disclaimer, I am a Brooklyn Nets and LA Lakers fan. So, hey, but I'm just realistic. It's not going to happen. Here are the 5 reasons why. First, let's go back to the letter that he wrote in 2014. Here was a letter that he wrote on July 11th of 2014 when he was announcing that I'm coming home. Before anyone ever cared where I would play basketball, I was a kid from Northeast Ohio. It's where I walked, it's where I ran, it's where I cried, it's where I bled. It holds a special place in my heart. People there have seen me grow up. I sometimes feel like I am their son. Their passion can be overwhelming, but it drives me. I want to give them hope when I can. I want to inspire them when I can. Here's the key part, one key point. My relationship with Northeast Ohio is bigger than basketball. So when I hear people say, oh, well, he's got these business ventures in LA, which is true. He has this home in LA, which is true. He can really, expand his business in LA, which is true. But he doesn't need to go to LA to do that. He can do it right there from Northeast Ohio, Cleveland. He can do all his business ventures from there. And remember, he said that his relationship with Northeast Ohio is bigger than basketball. So that means this is bigger than just business. This is a special relationship. I didn't realize that 4 years ago. I do now. Here's the second key point from that letter. When I left Cleveland, I was on a mission. I was seeking championships, and we won 2. But Miami already knew that feeling. Well, wait a minute. If he goes to the Lakers also know that feeling. The Lakers know that feeling very well, by the way, because they got more titles than even Miami. Okay? Our city hasn't had that feeling in a long, long, long time until 2016. My goal is to still win as many titles as possible, no question. But what's most important for me is bringing 1 trophy back to Northeast Ohio. Now, Everybody reads that and they say, well, he accomplished that goal, which is true. Bringing one trophy back to Northeast Ohio. That is true. But humans, and LeBron is human, we tend to get greedy. So why just now stop at one? Now that I got the one, why don't I bring in another one? And I want you to go back to the day when they won the title against Golden State. I saw a reaction from LeBron I did not see when he won the first two titles there in Miami. And the first two times when he won in Miami, he was happy. You could see it. You could see he was relieved. But you could also look on the face and tell something was missing. He was happy, but then he wasn't really happy. Because though he was happy to finally have a title, not where it was at, in Miami. He wanted that in Cleveland. He wanted Cleveland to experience that. Now, why is this important? Because when Cleveland won the title, folks, he broke down and cried. Something he didn't do the first two times he won in Miami. He was pounding the floor. He didn't do that in Miami. Okay? He clutched that trophy, that championship trophy. Okay? And here's what he said to Doris Burke when Doris Burke interviewed him after the game. Why is this one so special? Because you could see this one meant more to him than the two titles, and he even said as much. This one meant more to him than the two titles he won in Miami. Because I'm home. I'm home. Cleveland, this is for you. Now, LeBron understands. He's a man who understands history, who understands relevance and significance and things like that. LeBron knows now if he goes somewhere else, San Antonio, LA, New York, wherever else, he can't duplicate that feeling because it's not home. It's not home. There's only one place that's home. Remember that. And so when he said, I'm home, that's why this meant so much. That means he can't see himself. He cannot, even if he went somewhere else and won a title, he cannot duplicate that same feeling. Okay? Here's the biggest quote. And it seems like most people ignored this quote from his letter after talking about bringing back the one trophy to Northeast Ohio. I always believed that I would return to Cleveland and finish my career there. Okay? That's the strongest quote from this letter. Finish my career there. LeBron James is not into team hopping from team to team to team to team. That's not LeBron. Because that would diminish LeBron's legacy and value by doing that. So LeBron knew, go back home and win titles there. Or die trying, but get it there. But more importantly, retire there. His letter, folks, the letter, okay? Retire there. That's the most important quote of this whole letter. Okay? I want to finish my career there. So that tells me, if I'm Cleveland and I'm reading this letter, oh, well, he's not leaving. His own words. His own words. Now, you could say, well, he don't like Dan Gilbert because the organization was dysfunctional. Well, let's talk about that. LeBron does not play for ownership. LeBron doesn't play for GMs or coaches. He plays for the players on the team. LeBron is about bigger stuff than who is running the team and stuff like that. Because at the end of the day, LeBron is the kingmaker. Okay? So, the first reason why I said he's not going to leave is just go back to the letter. The letter tells you he's not leaving. But if If you're not fully convinced, then let's go to the second best reason. He's not going to leave Cleveland. And folks, trivia quiz. Where is the easiest place for him to win another title at? Cleveland, which the East got severely diminished this offseason, with them Butler being traded to Minnesota, with Paul George being traded to OKC. It's like there was a mass migration to the West. So that means that if LeBron went west, whether it's to San Antonio, LA, or whatever, he's got to go through so many different teams. Let's assume it was LA. He's still not going to be better than Golden State. Still not going to be better than San Antonio. Not going to be better than Houston. Not going to be better than OKC. In other words, it's a gauntlet out there. And why would LeBron, at the age of 34 years old, 34, 35, when he decides to make the move, he'll be about 35 years old, at the tail end of his career, take a tougher path to the title? Why would he do that? So his easiest path to the title is still in Cleveland. Because why? He's guaranteed a trip to the finals for really almost the remainder of his career. So all he has to do is just you might luck up and win another one. So that's another reason why LeBron's not going to leave, because his easiest path to the championship is in Cleveland. Okay? Number 3, he accomplished his goal. He won one. Now he wants to win another one there. He wants to win as many titles as he can in Cleveland. That makes a lot of sense. Okay? And there's this theory of, while he wants to hook up with his banana boat friends, and the banana boat they're talking about is Wade, LeBron, Carmelo, and CP3, Chris Paul. Well, he's already played with Wade. And when LeBron chose to leave in 2014, he could have played for the Clippers. He could have went and told the Clippers to carry some cap room, I'll play with CP3, but he didn't do that. He could have went to New York and said, because the Knicks had the cap room in 2014. I'll sign with you guys and play with Carmelo. He could have done those two things. And if you notice, he didn't do that. He went back home. So if playing with his friends was the most important thing for LeBron, then LeBron would have went to either LA, the Clippers, or the Knicks. Because why? The Clippers had CP3, and the Knicks had Carmelo Anthony. Now, I do believe he wants to play with his friends, but he wants it in Cleveland. That's what's going to happen. Not Chris Paul, but I believe Carmelo Anthony will end up in Cleveland. But that's going to be another podcast for another day. Okay? Here's the 4th reason. Money. Cash rules everything around me. Cream, get the dilly. Dollar bill, y'all. Okay? Okay? It's real simple. Money. LeBron signed these 2+2 or however 1+1 deals, contracts. So this way he gets paid max dollar. Well, Stephen Curry just signed a 5-year, $200 million contract, which pays him roughly about $40 million a season. Okay? LeBron sent out a tweet congratulating Curry, but he had another meaning behind it, because it was the next tweet he sent out. And remember, LeBron does things, there's reasons why. There are meanings. He said Curry is underpaid. Curry's underpaid. He feels Curry should be getting double that. So instead of $40 million a year, he should be making $80 million a year in LeBron's mind. Or instead of a $200 million contract, a $400 million contract. So if LeBron thinks Curry is underpaid, and LeBron believes he is the king, which he is, and LeBron believes he's better than Stephen Curry, which he is, then why would he take less money than Stephen Curry? Because if he leaves Cleveland, folks, that's exactly what can happen. What's going to happen? He cannot make more money than Stephen Curry if he leaves Cleveland. Even if he signs a 1+1 contract, he cannot do it. The new CBA agreement doesn't allow that to happen. So in order for LeBron to get max dollar more than Curry, he has to stay in Cleveland. And guess what, folks? That tweet just told me he's staying in Cleveland. See, there are too many what I call clues. Now, here's the fifth and final reason. Again, LeBron James is not some young pup anymore. LeBron James is not even in his prime anymore. He's at the tail end of his career. He's about 33, 34 years old. So, by the time he finishes next year, he's going to be about 34, 35 years old. LeBron is looking at the mortality of his basketball career because LeBron really only has about, I would say, 3 years of top flight play before you start seeing some real decline in his game. And I do not believe that LeBron is going to stay around where he's some third option, some sad case. No, that's not going to be LeBron. You got to understand how LeBron thinks. And LeBron came and gave you some clues too this past, I believe it was right before the offseason. If not, excuse me. He said that when he finishes playing, he wants to professionally own a team. So that means he wants to be owner of an NBA franchise. Why? Because the best way to billions of dollars is through ownership. As the employee, he doesn't get there because his salary is finite. Okay? He's only going to be able to make but so much. So LeBron, throughout his whole playing career, might make upwards to maybe $500 million. That would be about the best he's going to be able to do. Maybe 600 million, 700 million tops. That doesn't get him to billionaire status. If you want to be a billionaire, you have to be the owner. You got to get to ownership. That's the only way you can get to $1 billion is through ownership. Okay? So when I keep hearing all these so-called pundits sit there and say, oh, LeBron, yeah, he's seriously considering LA, and listen, folks, stop it. And I'm saying to these people in Cleveland, stop. Stop and for once think. Maybe that's the reason why they're called the mistake by the lake. They're not thinkers. No disrespect to Cleveland, but it's like people need to think a little bit. Okay? And so I look at this, and don't worry about the dysfunction of the front office. LeBron ain't playing for a front office. Okay? LeBron didn't know who David Griffin was before he got there. LeBron could care less that David Griffin is gone now. Trust me, LeBron don't care about that stuff. Here's what LeBron cares about. Who's on the floor? Which one of his brothers is on the floor who he's playing with that gives him a chance to win? That's all LeBron cares about. And like I said, in another podcast, I'm going to tell you why Carmelo Anthony will be in Cleveland, because it makes business sense for both parties. So I want to thank you for watching this segment of the Jermaine Brown Sports Talk Show. Have a nice day.